Good evening, everyone. This is the Black Post. Today, the message will be sent. No matter if you hate it, no matter if you love it, the message will be sent. I have a simple question for my foundational Black Americans, my African Americans, my Afro Americans, my Black people. And the question is, are you Black or African? The reason why I pose this question is not because I question myself. It's because the question was posed to our so-called first Black president, Barack Hussein Obama. I remember a time when Barack Obama was on the Tom Joyner Show, and he was asked, "Are you Black?" And let me read quite clearly what Barack Obama said. Here's a conversation, plain and simple. So Tom Joyner interviews Barack Obama on his Tom Joyner Morning Show and greets him by saying, "It's our first Black president of the United States." President Barack Obama replies, "Tom, I don't look at myself as the first Black president because the word Black has no standing at law." The word Black has no standing at law. The word Black has no standing at law. We need to understand that Barack Obama is a very intelligent man. He's a man of African descent and European descent. His mother was white from Kansas, and his father was from Kenya, is a Kenyan. So I think before we dive deep inside this conversation of whether you consider yourself Black or African, we must first determine or define rather what the word Black means. Coming from dictionary.com, the word Black simply means being a color that lacks hue and brightness and absorbs light without reflecting any of the rays composing it, characterized by absence of light, enveloped in darkness. The noun version, the color at one extreme end of the scale or grays opposite to white, absorbing all light incident upon it. Black clothing, especially as a sign of mourning. And the verb to make black, put on black, and of course in British, to boycott or ban. This is how we define Black in dictionary.com. Let's take it a step further. Let's see what Google has the word Black as being defined. The adjective of the very darkest color owing to the absence of or complete absorption of light, the opposite of white. Similarities include dark, pitch black, pitch dark, jet black, inky. 2, of any human group having dark colored skin, especially of African or Australian Aboriginal ancestry. And underneath, Black adolescents of Jamaican descent. The nouns, Black color or pigment. A member of a dark-skinned people, especially one of African or Australian Aboriginal ancestry. The verb make black, especially by the application of black polish, aka black face. What is the real meaning of Black? The color black is associated with power, fear, mystery, strength, authority, excellence, formulated death, evil, and aggression. Authority, rebellion, sophistication. Black is required for all other colors to have depth and variation of hue. The Black color is the absence of color. What is another word for Black? Darkened, sable, jet black, sooty, raven, blackish. Does urban mean black? Urban stands in for black and comes with all these same stereotypes. This erases the diversity of the black experience and of the music. Black music may now be performed in the city, but its roots lie in reggae from the hills of Jamaica, blues from the deep South, and drum beats from African villages. The word urban means black. So when your politicians tell you we're going to fix up the urban communities, they're talking about black people. But let's continue to define what black really is, or what black has been over the course of term. Black has no standing in law. So my question again, are you black or African? Because your first black president, your first African-American president, your first president that we considered black out of Chicago, born in Hawaii, did not consider himself black because he said black has no standing in law. As we read this publication here, because America granted them no rights. Who are they talking about? Blacks. Blacks have no rights because America did not grant us any rights. Let's move along. In today's society of America, people of color, I hate that fucking term, are being referred to as African Americans and or black as their classification of race and as their identities concerning their direct nationalities. Ever since indigenous aborigines of America were racially classified as black, beginning in the 1900s, society resumed utilizing the derogatory term to officially launch the streamlining of labeling people of color as black. The term black became very popular between the early 1900s and beyond due to a very deceitful, hidden agenda that the public of today has no idea. This term black, ladies and gentlemen, as I've been referring myself to for a very long time, and the older I get, the wiser I get, the more I read, the more my mind is opened. Now, just like any other word that the Europeans have indoctrinated on black people, on African descended people, American descendant of slaves people, we have taken that term and we have told the world we use this term as a term of endearment, AKA black, AKA nigga, AKA, no, not nigger, but nigga. And we need to understand what these words truly mean, not on a social level only, but on a legal level. On a legal level, because these things in the streets translate to something more sinister, something more evil that we have never even imagined. Let me tell you why, family. Let me tell you why. According to our government, integrated post-secondary education data system, definition for new race and ethnicity, these are the categories. These are the categories, and this is up to date. We have Hispanic or Latino or not Hispanic or Latino. Then second, American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, and white. What is missing here, family? What is missing here? You see white, but you don't see or European American. You don't see that, do you? You don't see anything except white. But let's break this down because I don't think you guys really understand. You may not even fucking care, but let me tell you, you should care and you should understand what black means in America. Now, I talk to a lot of my brothers and sisters out of the African continent, and let me tell you one thing they don't consider themselves: black. Black. You ask a brother or sister from the continent, and you ask them, and the term comes up, and they say, no, I'm not black, I'm Kenyan. No, I'm not black, I'm Ghanaian. No, I'm not black, I'm Nigerian. No, I'm not black, I'm South African. So I asked myself, I traced my roots back to Ghana as well as Nigeria. So on my application, do I put black or African American, or do I put other? Am I a Ghanaian and am I a Nigerian? I think the new term could simply be a descendant of Africa. A descendant of Africa. And if you trace your roots back to your country, to your tribe, then before I even finish this session, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you to run with it. Because what you're going to find out through this cast is that black is much more than a skin color. It's much more than a classification. It's something so much more that hasn't been even changed since the 1800s. And we wonder why we get killed in the streets. We wonder why our communities are in a fallen state. Let's break this down, family. Hispanic or Latino, a person of Cuban, Mexican, Puerto Rican, South or Central American, or other Spanish culture or origin, regardless of race. Regardless of race. American Indian or Alaskan Native, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North and South America, including Central America, who maintains cultural identification through tribal affiliation or community attachment. Asian, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, South Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, including, for example, Cambodia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan, the Philippine Islands, Thailand, and Vietnam. Now we get to black or African American. This is your classification. A person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. So if you have an African brother or sister, I want you to ask them, can you please tell me any of the black racial groups of Africa? Now, it depends on their generation. If they're millennial, they may coin the term black. But let me tell you something. If you're Generation X and before, there's no such thing of any black racial groups in Africa. There is no such thing of any black racial groups of Africa. Our brothers and sisters from Africa are kinsmen. They do not consider themselves black. They do not consider themselves as black. They are Ganban. They are Angolan. They are South African. They are Tanzanian. They're Nigerian. They're Senegalese. They're Ghanaian. They do not consider themselves as black. And there's no such thing as a black racial group in Africa. In Africa. A lot of our black brothers and sisters on their applications, when they come to America and they apply for a job, they go into a career, they put other. They do not check the box of black or African American. They do not. And I'm advising you, family, do not check that box. Because as we read through this and we go through this information, you're going to see why that The term black is for an animal. The term black is for property. You're going to see the rights that the term black does not have. And this is going to trace back to what Barack Obama said, that he does not consider himself black, because black has no standing in law. It has no standing in law. Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, or other Pacific Islands. Listen to this, family. Listen to this. A person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. So when Middle Easterners coming over here, the Iraqi, the Iran, the Afghani, they're considered white. People of North Africa, people that derive from Morocco, consider themselves white. People who are part of the Arab Emirates, when they come over here as a classification, they consider themselves white. Do you feel like something is missing out of here, family? You got white and nothing else. You have black or African American, because that's the term that Jesse Jackson kind of like coined or made popular back in the early 1990s. But I'm going to read this again between the black and white. And I'm going to stop right here so you guys can think of where I'm going at. Black or African American, a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. A person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. As I stated before, there are no black racial groups in Africa. They're kinsmen. Wherever country they were born in, whatever nationality they are, that is what they are. They're like, oh, I'm from the black racial group Kenya. There's no such thing, family. I'm from the black racial group Tanzanian. There's no such thing, family. I'm from the black racial group Nigerian. There's no such thing, family. There is no such thing. I'm from the black racial group out of Zimbabwe. There's no such thing. But when we get to the white, a person having origins in any of the original peoples. Wait a minute, I'm missing something here. A person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. A person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. But when I get to the white, a person having origins in any of the original people of Europe, Middle East, and North Africa. What are we missing here, family? What are we missing? So you telling me the descendants of Europeans in this country have origins in Europe, and so they're original people, but the black people, so-called the Africans in this country, are not of the original people of Africa. That's just one step. That's just one step. Let's move along, family. The term black and Negro were coined to dehumanize people from the African continent to serve the imperialist and colonial agendas of Europe and the U.S. I'm moving down to the second paragraph. On top of my list today is black, not the color which I find beautiful. I resent being called black. I resent being called black. I find it offensive, and the continued dehumanization of people of African origin in the United States and across the world is partially a result of this label, and its ending it is as significant as taking down the Confederate flag. Do you still want to be considered black? Let me pose a stronger argument. The term black, or to use it in Spanish translation, Negro, did not enter everyday speech corrupted. In fact, in its Indo-European origin, scholars would tell you black, which meant fire, shining white, or flashing in various bright colors, was dry, in negative association, and without racial connotation. without racial connotation. But for the past 400 years since the arrival of the first Africans to this region from the British colony of Jamestown in 1619, and what would become the U.S. has taken on a darker meaning and become the preferred European way to refer to us. This was neither accidental nor an accident. In fact, imperialism and colonialism could not have been established as European institutions if were called African. It's a bold, some would say, simplistic statement, and I make it for a good reason. Now, I'm not going to read this whole entire journal, but you see what I'm getting at, family. And hopefully the wheels will start to turn in your mind, because I'm not quite done yet. I have a little bit more information for you guys to jot just before you really take on this term, before you really adopt this term, African, instead of the term we have already adopted as Black people. Now, it's going to take me some time to really rid myself of this term Black, because with knowledge comes power. Now, this is this website here, Black African American are really white. This is from change.org, okay? This is from change.org. And I'm going to start off. It has been brought to my attention on that race is solely based on self-identification. It has nothing to do with the origins of your skin color. Anthropological, or the origins of your skin color. And based on the definition, white is a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. People who call themselves Black should really be self-identifying as white. I'm not saying that shit. Oh no, family. But I want you to really analyze what I'm reading here. This was changed in 1997, and people should adhere to them. The Dred Scott decision of 1857 state that a person of African descent cannot be a citizen of the United States, and Barack Obama stated on the Tom Joyner Morning Show that Black has no standing at law. Therefore, Black people have no rights in the eyes of the law and are known as I'm not going to say it, family. I'm not going to say it because our so-called first Black president, our so-called first African-American president, our so-called first mulatto mixed president knew this. Him being a lawyer, him being a Harvard grad and Columbia grad, he knew this. But he did not educate the people. The Dred Scott decision of 1857 states that a person of African descent cannot be a citizen of the U.S., and Barack Obama stated on the Tom Joyner Morning Show that Black has no standing at law. Therefore, Black people have no rights in the eyes of the law. Do you still consider yourself Black? Have you adopted this term just like you adopted the term nigger? Did you adopt this term and use it as a term of endearment like most of us did with the word nigger? I'm trying to figure out, family. But this is bigger than what you think, family. This is bigger than what you think. Here I am. In the landmark decision of Dred Scott versus Sanford, 1857, the U.S. Supreme Court held that African Americans were not citizens and thus had no standing to sue in federal court. A century later, in another landmark decision, the court declared in Brown versus Board of Education, 1954, the state laws created separate public schools for Black and white students were unconstitutional. Black has no standing in law. 1857, that African Americans, aka black people, were not citizens and thus had no standing to sue in federal court. And I know what you're about to say. And we're going to go there. We're going to go there. Most of us become familiar with African American, the term African American in the 1980s when Jesse Jackson began popularizing it as an alternative to black. I said early 1990s, but early 1980s, okay. But the term is much older than that. I found an example dating back to the earliest days of American Republic. And as you can tell here, this document, family, was printed in the month of 1782, and it says simply by an African American. So this term is very old. This term is very old. The term black and the term African American. But we talked about Dred Scott. We talked about Dred Scott versus Stanford back in 1857. So let's dig deeper on the dehumanizing black people in America, them dehumanizing African Americans in America. And I'm not going to draw this cast on long because I just want to hit the point. I want to hit it home so you guys start to turn in your seats, for you start to think. Here we go. Dred Scott versus Stanford was a landmark decision of the United States Supreme Court in which the court held that the U.S. Constitution was not meant to include American citizenship for black people. American citizenship for black people. What happened in Dred Scott versus Stanford? The decision of Scott versus Stanford, considered by legal scholars to be the worst ever rendered by the Supreme Court, was overturned. And this is where the lie begins. And this is where the lie ends, family. They said just because of the 13th and 14th Amendment that the Scott versus Stanford law was overturned. Ladies and gentlemen, my people from the African continent, where your roots lie. See, Marcus Garvey basically said that a tree without roots is dead. Where are your roots at, family? Are your roots in your ancestor who were slaves, or your roots in the continent of Africa, where the entire continent looks like you? Looks like you. A direct image of you. I want you to go on African Diaspora channel. I want you to look up some pictures of Africans, and don't they look like your auntie? Don't they look like your aunt? Don't they look like your mother, father, cousin, brother? Don't they look like people like you? They may speak a different language. They may dress a little bit different, but these are our people, and we have been divided from them. And we continue to be divided from them because America was never meant for us. But in that same breath, they will make us look at them as savages. And when they come over here, because of the separation, because of the division, because of the stereotypes, we pull our hand out to them. They smack it. They put their hand out to us. We smack it. I want you to understand, family, that the term black is not a term of endearment. The term nigger is not the term of endearment. Now, the term brother and sister, when we're using it in our own families with our own people that look like us, is. And I have another thing to say before I move on. Now, some of you may not feel the same way or what I'm about to say. I feel singled out. I feel discriminated upon when a non-black person calls me brother or calls me bro. Especially when I hear them talk to a white person, a Asian person, a Hispanic person, and they speak their name, or they call them sir. But when they talk to me, they say, hey, brother, hey, bro. No, I'm not your brother. I am not your bro. Address me as you do everybody else. That is not your nickname for me, motherfucker. That is not my nickname. My nickname is not brother. My nickname is not bro. Call me sir. Call me mister. Do not call me bro. If you go around calling everybody brother, then that's you. But I've heard it time and time again. I would hear a white gentleman talk to another white gentleman and call them their name. But when he gets to me, he doesn't know me either. He doesn't know me either. He don't know me from Daryl. He don't know me from Jerome. He doesn't know me either, but he calls me bro. I'm not your bro. I'm not your brother. Call me Mr. or Sir. Because I promise you, if I start calling people white cracker, I wonder what they would say. Let's read along, family. The Dred Scott versus Stanford case of 1857 was the most important slavery-related decision in the United States Supreme Court history. The purpose was to balance the congressional strength of the two factions by making sure an equal number of slave and free states were admitted to the Union. They toyed with us. They toyed with us in legislation, in property, dehumanizing. See, when you dehumanize someone and then you bring it to present day, I can't name all of our Black brothers and sisters. God damn it, I said it again. It's going to be difficult for us, family. It's going to be very, very difficult, but I can't count all our brothers and sisters of African descent that have been gunned down, killed, shot, hung, burned in modern day society in the last 10 years in this country, simply because our pigmentation, our melanin is darker. Have you noticed that every other nationality, every other ethnic, every other race is damn near considered white? Our origins is from a strong, powerful people, very resilient people. But we need to understand that the law does not protect Black people. The law does not protect African Americans. And this is why your brothers and sisters from Africa do not put Black or African American. They may not even know that Black has no standing at law, that African American has no standing at law. But they know when they check the box other, that their kinship, their tribalship from their country in Africa has standing at law. I want you to ask some of your Black brothers and sisters. The Dred Scott decision was the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on March 6, 1857, that having lived in a free state and territory did not entitle an enslaved person, Dred Scott, to his freedom. In essence, the decision argued that as someone's property, you knew this. I'm not telling you nothing new here, am I, family? They consider us as property. Scott was not a citizen and could not sue in a federal court. Now, we need to understand something. I was going to go over the Missouri Compromise, but it really doesn't matter. Even though that the Missouri Compromise is directly related to the case of 1857 that blacks have no standing in law, that African Americans had no standing in law. Now it says here for the Missouri Compromise, in an effort to preserve the balance of power in Congress between slave and free states, the Missouri Compromise was passed in 1820, admitting Missouri as a slave state and Maine as a free state. Now, of course, back in 54 of 18, it was repealed by the Kansas-Nebraska Act. We won't get into that act, but let me break something down. We talked about the 13th and 14th Amendment, that it overturned, right here, that it was overturned by the 13th and 14th Amendment. Now, again, let's define the term blacks have no standing at law and where it comes from. Dred Scott versus Stanford, it says again, was a landmark decision of the United States Supreme Court in which the court held that the U.S. Constitution was not meant to include American citizenship for black people, was not meant to include American citizenship for black people. But here it says, and this is the trickery, this is the bullshit, that it was overturned. It was not overturned. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, family. Now, let's get into the 13th and 14th Amendment. Although Congress abolished slavery in the District of Columbia in 1862, and the President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation ended the practice of slavery in rebellious states in 1863, at war's end in 1865, the question of slavery had not been resolved at the national level. The federal government required new state constitution and former Confederate states to include the abolition of slavery, but there was nothing to prevent states from reinstituting their practice with revised state constitution. Now they get into some jargon, but this is basically the amendment that abolished slavery in America. Okay. And again, this source is coming from Senate.gov. Let's get into the 14th Amendment. Let's get into the 14th Amendment because, again, they would like to tell you that this term this term of blacks have no standing at law was overturned. Why would the president, who's a very intelligent man with a law degree, actually say on Tom Joyner's show, when Tom Joyner say, hey, guys, our first black president, and President Obama says to his black boule, to his skulls and bones, he says, I don't consider myself black because blacks have no standing in law. Black, he didn't say blacks. He said black has no standing in law. Okay. 14th Amendment, ratified July 9th, 1868. The 14th Amendment granted citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, including former enslaved persons, and provided all citizens with equal protection under the laws. Extending the provision of the Bill of Rights to the states, the amendment authorized the government to punish states that abridge citizens' right to vote by proportionally reducing their representation in Congress. It banned those who engage in insurrection against the United States from holding any civil, military, or elected office without the approval of 2/3 of the House and Senate. The amendment prohibited former Confederate states from repaying war debts and compensation to former slaves for the emancipation of their enslaved people. Finally, it granted Congress the power to enforce these amendments, a provision that led to the passage of other landmark legislation in the 20th century, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Congress required former Confederate states to ratify the 14th Amendment as a condition of regaining federal representation. Family, I have a question for you guys. Blacks has no standing in law. What are we learning here? Family? What are we learning here? The Dred Scott versus Stanford case, 1857, was the most important slavery-related decision in the United States Supreme Court history. The purpose was to balance the congressional strength of the two factions by making sure an equal number of slave and free states were admitted to the Union. Then we have here that this court case, basically from the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, that's held in the Constitution, was not meant to include American citizenship for black people. So you're saying, well, the 14th Amendment said that enslaved people were considered, citizens. Who else considered themselves enslaved? Was it the Irish? Who else considered themselves slaves in America? Was it the Japanese? But I have a question for you guys, just to start off some controversy, start off some arguments, start off some very, very healthy debates. Do you see African Americans in this 14th Amendment? Do you see blacks in this 14th Amendment? Because we understand that so-called the Black Reconstruction with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. So again, let's go over this. Abolish slavery in the United States, 13th Amendment. Granted citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, including former enslaved persons, and provided all citizenship with equal protection under the law. And provided all citizens with equal protection under the law. But the U.S. Constitution, in the case of 1857, state that black had no standing in law. African Americans had no standing in law. What the 15th Amendment? Maybe I'm missing something here. As a member of the Senate Committee to the Judiciary, William Stewart of Nevada guided the 15th Amendment through the Senate. Okay, prohibited states from defranchising voters, okay, on account of race, color, or previous conditions of servitude. The amendment left open the possibility, however, the states could institute voter qualifications equal to all races, and many former Confederate states took advantage of this provision. So I'm not getting it. I'm not understanding, family. I'm not understanding. Maybe I need some more information. I don't know. I'm not getting it. Discrimination against blacks linked to dehumanization. This is from Stanford. This is back in 2008 in February. Crude historical depiction of African Americans as ape-like may have disappeared from mainstream U.S. culture, but research presented in a new paper by psychologists at Stanford, Pennsylvania State University, and the University of California, Berkeley, reveals that many Americans subconsciously associate blacks with apes. So this really goes into the term that we are not human. We're not human. We're not human. See, I don't want you to take it from me. I want you to take it from the first so-called black president. I don't want you to take it from me. Obama clearly said, when Tom Joyner, and I quote, says, "It's our first black president of the United States." And Barack Hussein Obama said, "Tom, I don't look at myself as the first black president because the word black has no standing at law. The word black has no standing at law. There can be no realization of the rights of the child when it is known international fact in domestic and international law, listen, and international law, that black and the word black has no standing at law. Black children the world over have no rights and have no human rights. Black children the world over are not entitled to protections under the law, and there is no international obligation nor mandate to protect them, because in accord with international law, IPES US SF-181 form, the Dred Scott decision of 1857, descendants of Africans have no rights which any white man was bound to respect. There are no black racial groups of Africa. There are no black racial groups of Africa. Then we see right here, ladies and gentlemen, from the government website. Yeah. This is the IPES, Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System. Data system. It says right here, a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. There are no black racial groups in Africa? Are they talking about the damn Black Panther Party? Are they talking about the Black Congressional Caucus? What are they talking about? There's no black, you know what? Family. Do I have to do a Google search? I want to know the Black racial groups of Africa. That's what I want to know. I'm down for it, family. I'm down for it. Let's do it. These are the Black racial groups of Africa. I don't see the Black racial groups of Africa here. What is the racial makeup of Africa? Statistics South Africa asks people to describe themselves in the census in terms of 5 racial population. The 2011 census figures for these categories were Black South African at 76.4%, white South African at 9.1%, colored South African, those are mixed people, at 8.9%. What are we doing here, family? We have to understand this is a European division code. This is a European division code. These are not Black racial groups in Africa. Are they talking about Black? Are they talking about South Africa? But then this is what the Europeans did. And the Americans are following suit because we understand that white Americans are simply descendants of Europeans. I'm going to tell you why. When you say white people, this is who you're talking about. A white, here we're talking about white, W-H-I-T, white. A person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. Mainly the Arab Emirates. You want to see something, family? This is why they call the people of North Africa white. This is why they call them white. This is why they call them white. North Africans. Now, as you can tell, a lot of North Africans, other than these brothers you see here, probably out of Morocco, have light colored skin. Have light colored skin, but they consider them, because again, what we need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, once it said the Middle East, do we understand that the Arab Emirates is North Africa? So the Arabs consider themselves white. White people consider themselves white. We need to understand that their ancestors, the people we're looking at, the people out of Arabic countries, they had a direct hand in the slave trade, if not the first people who put Africans in slavery. Now, not none of these guys here, don't get me wrong, none of these guys here, but their ancestors. Let's look at this. North Africa, Morocco, Algeria, Tanzania, Libya, Egypt. Now, if you look at people from Morocco, Algeria, and Libya, you will see they have very, very light colored skin. And a lot of them, if you speak to them, they may tell you they're from North Africa, but they won't tell you that they're African. They would tell you that they're Arabic. They would tell you that they're Arabic. Look at this, family. Are North Africans Black or white? Well, they're both. They're both. Now, let me ask you a question. If this sister on the left consider herself white, Do you think an organization or a business will call her a liar and not even offer her the job? Will they be simply confused? She said, no, I'm from Morocco. I'm from the southern part of Morocco, but Morocco is in the northern part of Africa. Didn't you say on your government site, nses.ed.gov, that white people are from North Africa, excuse me. You're from North Africa. Let me tell you something. There are dark skin color Africans in Morocco and Libya. So are they considered white with dark skin? That's the question. Because we clearly define what dictionary.com called black. Even dictionary.com did not have black people in it. But when you search for Google, okay, we get this. We get black. Of any human group having dark colored skin, especially of African or Australian Aboriginal ancestry. What are we going off of? Well, again, our government says a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. I'm looking at North Africans. Some of them are dark, some of them are light. But nonetheless, even this sister here may consider herself Arabic. Is Arabic a race? Is Arabic a language? Is Arabic a nationality? I really want you to find these things, because we need to understand that these terms that they're using on us. So you're probably asking yourself the question, Arab Emirates. Let's look into this, family. Let's look into this. The United Arab Emirates, sometimes simply called the Emirates, is a sovereign state in Western Asia and the northeast end of the Arabian Peninsula in the south of the Persian Gulf. But the people of North Africa consider themselves white. Why not South Africa? Didn't the Dutch colonize South Africa? I'm just asking. Let's look into this. What are the 7 United Arab Emirates? The sovereign absolute monarchy is a federation of 7 emirates, consists of Abu Dhabi, which serves as the capital. I don't see Africa. But let's see this. Is United Arab Emirates part of Africa or Asia? Located in the region known as the Middle East, the UAE is part of the continent of Asia. It's part of the continent of Asia, but Middle Eastern are not considered Asian. They're considered white. Okay, but people of North Africa are also considered white. People of the Middle East are also considered white, but they're a part of the continent of Asia. And those Arabics in North Africa mainly are considered white, but they're in North Africa. So you're telling me that an entire continent, except the top part, is white, even though that the entire continent of Africa, except those Arab countries, okay? Family, this could be very eye-opening for you, very disturbing for you, but the one thing I want you to understand that Black has no standing at law. Black has no standing at law. Black has no standing at law. And your so-called first Black president knew this. Your so-called first African-American president knew this. So with all due respect, my people, I'm still trying to find myself in this white man's world. They have colonized the entire earth. And we are the nappy-headed stepchildren still trying to find a seat at the table. So, whether from this point on you call yourself Black or African American, I want you to understand one thing. According to the U.S. law, and you saw it, nothing was overturned by the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. And even Barack Obama knew that Black has no standing at law. So he does not, I repeat, he does not consider himself Black or African American. He would speak to the Black community. He would speak to the African American community. But at no time have you ever heard President Barack Obama ever acclaim, ever assume, ever admit that he was Black or African American. You know why? He probably considered himself white. He probably considered himself Kenyan. We understand when you trace your roots back to the country of your ancestors, you have kingship now. You have kinship and kingship now. So you shouldn't even call yourself Black or African American. I'm just saying. I'm not saying you have to go along with what I'm saying. I'm just saying, just think about it. I think from now on, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to consider myself a descendant of Ghana. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. This is the Black Post. The message today was delivered. No matter if you hate it, no matter if you loved it, the message was delivered. You guys have a great and wonderful evening. All of my African people.